All right, here we go, 5-7. This section's pretty easy. Going to point out some things, and I'm going to start by pointing them out with a rectangle. Like, what do we know about a rectangle? What you should know about a rectangle is that it has 4 right angles. You should also know that the opposite sides are parallel, the right and left, and the top and bottom. What you also know about the right and left sides is that they are congruent. I don't know if that shows up very well or not, so I'll use a different color. All right? If the right and left are congruent, the top and bottom are congruent, but they are different lengths. All right, what else do I know about a rectangle? Well, I also know that if I label A, B, C, and D, I can say a few things. I can say angle A plus angle B is equal to 180. 90 plus 90 is 180. I can say that angle B plus angle C is equal to 180. And I could do that all day long, thus saying adjacent angles are supplementary. What can I say about angle A in relationship to angle C? I can say angle A and angle C are congruent. Opposite angles are congruent. I could say the same thing about B and D. Okay, well, what if I go ahead and take my rectangle and I plop it over to the side? I didn't change the side lengths at all. So Y and Y, opposite sides are still the same, X and X. Opposite sides are still parallel. It would have to be in order to be a parallelogram because you need 2 sets of parallel sides. I could say that angle A plus angle B is equal to 180. I could also say that angle B plus angle C is equal to 180, just like in a rectangle. Okay? A plus B, these 2 angles add up to 180. These 2 angles add up to 180. And I could continue that. I can also say in a parallelogram that angle A is congruent to angle C. Angle B is congruent to angle D. That's what I can say. Opposite angles are congruent. The only difference between a rectangle and a parallelogram are these right here. 90-degree angles. Okay? Sides are the same, everything. So now, let's look at a couple of sample problems to help you with the 5.7. Well, here's the first one. Okay? It tells me it's a parallelogram. It says it up here. Parallelogram. I don't have to guess if it is or not. It says parallelogram. So what's the value of Kn? Most everybody says 23.5, which they're absolutely right. It is. But we need to we need to come up with a justification as why. Keep it simple. Don't overthink why these 2 sides are the same. They're the same because opposite sides are congruent in a parallelogram. Remember, that's the symbol for a parallelogram. Opposite sides. Justify it. I'm making this statement. This backs up why I can say it's 23.5. Right? And you should be able to do 2, 9, 10, 11, and 12 with that. All right, moving on. 3 and 7. I'm changing the directions a little bit. Right? Just so you know. You can see that at the top of there. In question 3 and 4, you're going to find the measure of all the angles as well as what they're asking for. In 3, they want to find the measure of angle D. Okay, so how am I going to find the measure of angle D? We'll go back to what we said about a parallelogram. We said that angle C plus angle D is equal to 180 degrees, right? Well, if C is 85, angle D is what I want to find. That's equal to 180. I made a statement. I substituted a value in for angle C, and now it's subtract 85 from both sides, and angle D is equal to 95 degrees. So I'm going to label that. Okay? I found D. Now what about E and F? Well, gee, go back to what we talked about in our principles of a rectangle. What do I know about opposite angles? Gee, they're the same. So E is 85, F is 95. Done. It's that easy. Okay? Now, what about question 7 and 8? You also need to find a value for X in 7 and 8, and you also need to find the measure of each angle. As with the previous problem that we just did, number 3, we did one problem and found all 4 angles. Over here, it might be the same, or I might have to do 2 problems, but I'm going to know all the angles. Well, think about what we know. All sides are the same. Well, it's not talking about sides, it's referring to angles. Opposite angles are the same, so t is 135. Okay, great. I know that t plus u equals 180. I know that t is 135, so I can subtract 135, and angle u is equal to, should be 45 degrees. Well, gosh, if u is 45, that means s has to be 45. Yes, you're absolutely right. I found all four angles. Now I need to find a value for x. Well, there's a couple of ways you can do this. Notice this is the only work I'm showing so far. Okay, so bad part is I got to do two problems. Well, I know that r plus s, angle r plus angle s is equal to 180. I know that angle r is 135. I want to find angle s, but that's expressed as 6x minus 3. And together, these two angles add up to 180. I could do that. Or I could take a shorter route, now that I know what the measure of the angle is, and say 6x minus 3 is equal to 45. Eventually, these two equations, when you get down here, and a couple of short steps here, these two equations will be the same. So here I have to add 3. 6x is equal to 48. I have to divide by 6, and x is equal to 8. Down here I would get the same thing. X is equal to 8. I found x, and I found the measure of all the angles. And I didn't have a lot of work to do. You could do either way. There's multiple ways to do this. All right? So, again, principles of rectangles or parallelograms. Think about it. Opposite sides are equal. So here's an example. All right? And I'll even use this up here. What if I said 2x minus 5 is equal to 30? What do I know about these opposite sides? They're equal. Okay, so you made a statement that said they are equal. That's true. The problem with geometry is you got to be able to create the equation. They are equal. They are equal. 2x minus 5 equals 30. They are equal. That should help you with some of the other problems. All right, there you go. Make sure your assignment gets turned in on time. It's posted, so for those of you that were gone,